Hi, this is Kermit the Frog.
Fascinating.
I'm Captain Kirk.
Magic is always there, as long as we keep looking for it.
Engage.
What does God need with a starship?
Thank you, love you. Mwah.
I protest. I am not a merry man.
Places, please. And here we go.
Down at Fraggle Rock.
Welcome, Doozers, Gorgs, Trash Heaps, Brails, and Things to episode 164 of the MuppeTrek Podcast. I'm Jarman.
And I'm Steve. We're on a journey across the stars to compare and contrast the creative worlds of Jim Henson and Gene Roddenberry.
What started as reviews of The Muppet Show and Star Trek the original series has expanded into outer space.
And this week we have Fraggle Rock episode Fraggle Wars and Star Trek The Next Generation episode Deja Q.
Ooh, but before we do that, Steve, I think I want to rock.
Well, there's all kinds of gems, jewels, and geodes in the world, many of which can be found in Fraggle Rock. And this week's is dolomite. It was first described in 1791 by a French geologist, Déodat Gratte de Dolomieu.
I'm sure that was right.
I'm realizing all these geologists are French people, like over and over and over again. It's some French. So I don't know if they were just ahead of the curve for geology.
They're
or
sensory and sensual. They like touching things, just getting their hands dirty.
Yeah, dolomite is named after Dolomieu. It commonly shows up as white, gray, sometimes pink or tan, and sometimes it has this really pearly, glassy luster that makes it a very variable mineral as far as what's found. In the real world, it's used in cement production, steel manufacturing, ceramics, and agriculture. It's a soil conditioner. But really, it's used all over the place, even though we don't know it. And it's a very important source of magnesium, which is used in different alloys and a bunch of different chemical refining processes. So dolomite is a highly industrial mineral that shapes the world we live in, whether we know it or not.
Random. How do they find out?
So that's dolomite, and that rocks.
I want to rock!
Yeah. But this week on Fraggle Rock, what's up, Doc? Doc is fed up with Schimmelfinny, who put a fake spider on the front seat of his car. He's going to get even with a hand buzzer. He looks out at Schimmelfinny and gets a pie in the face. Doc is fuming. Sprocket really doesn't approve of this rivalry that they have. And Doc goes to tie a tin can to Schimmelfinny's car to get him back, but then he gets pied again. That's when he declares war. But Sprocket threatens to leave if things escalate, and Doc gives it up and invites Schimmelfinny over to eat some pie instead. Well, what's going down in Fraggle Rock? Red and Moki wander deep into the rock on a camping trip. Moki wanders off, following the sound of, kind of sounds like music, but she observes a group of Fraggles chanting the word order, order, order all over again. She reveals herself and they attack in hats and trench coats. They blindfold her and put her in a cage, and she is held as an enemy Fraggle. Red awakens to find that Moki is gone, and she finds them, the weird Fraggles, now chanting prisoner, prisoner. Red runs back to the rock, gathers all the other Fraggles, and warns them about the enemy Fraggle she's discovered. That's when the world's oldest Fraggle shows up, saying he fears the worst, war, which no one remembers what it is. Red gets everybody on board singing the song If It Happened to You, which talks about terrible things that could happen to any of them. Wembley is the only one that seems to have questions here and wonders why they should hate the other Fraggles. And that's when the world's oldest Fraggle explains that you can't have a war without hate. So we have to hate them or we can't have a war. Meanwhile, Moki tries to win over her captors and convinces them to let her take her blindfold off. She screams, "Whoopee!" which she finds out is a curse to these other Fraggles who hate whoopies. She tries to get her captors to figure out what their idea of fun is, and she finds that they are very different. They don't laugh or anything. They sing "Ho, ho, ho, what a funny world," which is a robotic tune about them very flatly singing about how hilarious the world is. The world's oldest Fraggle leads the others to find a weapons cache locked away long ago, including a giant cannon of some sort from some Fraggle war of the past.
I gotta know more.
Fraggles on both sides prepare to go to war because the cave's oldest Fraggle remembers that back in the day they became mortal enemies because the other Fraggles had no sense of humor. The war begins at dawn. Tensions rise. They have to go to war. Moki sings a sad song from her cage, Sunshine and Shadows, as Red attempts to rescue her. Red and her counterpart Beige take things into their own hands. As the war is about to start, they go and they pie their own leaders, which everyone finds hilarious. And in that laughter, they realize they're not so different after all. And maybe they don't have to go to war with the other Fraggles. And that was this week's episode of Fraggle Rock. Jarman, what did you think of Fraggle Wars?
Man, it was certainly different than anything we've encountered before. As far as like,
I'll agree with that.
Not getting the same storylines. We were upset about that for a little bit. Like, come on, like something's a little different, and getting upset at one of your friends and all that. This is just totally breaks the mold.
Oh yeah.
There's some doozers in the background, but not new doozers really doing anything with the storyline, which is kind of a missed opportunity. I feel like there could have been like rival doozers in this war too.
Oh, true. Like Red Hat we've seen that, but what was it, the Red Hat and the Yellow Hats when they're arguing about what the construction should be built out of?
That's right. Within their own community, I guess they have like rival factions. But yeah, there's no. Once again, Marjorie's just missing in action, gone.
Marjorie's missing. No Gobo, no Boober, no Uncle Traveling Matt's postcard.
Is this the first with no Gobo? Well, I guess there's been a no Fraggle episode or two, so maybe not.
Yeah, true. I feel like there was one other with no Gobo, maybe season 1, where they gave the actor a day off.
It was weird just having all the Fraggles involved, like all of them, but not Gobo or Boober. It was just like, why were they missing? But
I don't know. But I think that we talked about wanting to tell different stories. And I think by removing characters.
That's true.
Suddenly, if Gobo's not there, you can't have the like Red wants to be in charge, but everyone wants Gobo to be in charge. Like you can't have that story if he's not friggin' there.
That's true. I didn't think about that. So it's forced them to make different decisions. But I loved Wembley being the voice of reason and morality. He's like choosing to tell people like, well, why are we doing this? And it's very poignant throughout history.
Because we have to have hate or else we can't have war.
Why do you hate them? I don't remember. Okay. They don't have a sense of humor. Okay. So we should fight them? I don't understand.
We can't laugh about anything.
So
I loved that Fraggle Wars got more context as it went because there have been now multiple Fraggle Wars based off the lore that was established.
Oh,
here.
yeah. The machines and the weapons. I mean, what happened?
Huge cannon and a catapult. Like, that's crazy. We've never seen anything like that. The fact that there was like Fraggle armor suddenly that a bunch of them had on was kind of crazy to think that they've gone at it before.
I'm just picturing piles of dead Fraggle bodies and the spoils of war.
Yeah, they don't even talk about like the horrors, but he is the world's oldest Fraggle. So there's, and we don't know how long they live.
I thought they were going to go a route of the world's oldest Fraggle and that oldest Fraggle on the other side, the woman, that they were old lovers that had spurned each other. And that's why they started these two different communities. And he didn't like her.
Oh, true. That would have been an okay payoff.
Yeah. I'm surprised they didn't go that route. But anyways,
she wouldn't laugh at any of his jokes.
But will we see these Fraggles again is my question. Like, are they just going to be out of the picture?
I don't know. Here's the thing. We have never run into them before.
Mm-hmm.
And they really didn't have to go that far to run into them this time.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it. Like a day's trip, maybe, at the most.
Yeah. So who knows? I doubt it. But it's interesting from a lore perspective to think that, like, Fraggles have enacted violence on one another.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it was good to have Moki as the person being held captive. She's a good person to kind of talk sense into her captors because she's like a hippie, peace and love. But yeah, I don't know. It was a fun, different. I was like, what is happening here? So that was refreshing.
Very different energy.
Yeah.
Totally agree with that. No, I really dug it. I'm also digging these different stories we're getting to hear finally, and it makes me excited that we're not just in for the same thing for the next 4 years.
Yes. That
Every
is good to know. Reassuring.
It is. Well, as I mentioned, no silly creatures this week. I feel like this is the third or fourth time this season where we have had no Uncle Traveling Matt's postcard for some reason or another.
Mm-hmm.
I'm realizing from a budgetary perspective, it was probably pretty expensive to do that.
True.
Fly an actor and a crew to all these different places for 30-second bit in an episode. That's probably a tough sell.
Adult actors and kid actors, you have to have them sign forms and set up the shots, and it's a lot.
So I bet you that's why we're not seeing them, but it doesn't make me less disappointed.
I hope it comes back.
So Darwin, what did you think was the best Muppeteering moment this week?
I both Steve and I watched this a couple of weeks ago, so I'm trying to remember my moment here, but I said the laughing song from the boring Fraggle was my favorite Muppeteering moment. Because there was so much choreography and stuff. That's right. Because they all join in and everything. That was really cool.
There was a lot of movement. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, that was a good song and it was fun and it was just very involved.
And you're right that it was more choreographed than the Fraggles typically are. Because typically the Fraggles are fun loving. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing. This is one of those times where they had to actually be coordinated.
Because of order.
I loved the movement of the dull Fraggles. Just in general, the song was an extension of that, but just so methodical and coordinated. I love their weird little trench coats.
Yeah.
It was so funny to see Fraggles that weren't fraggly.
Very opposite of fraggly.
I really dug that whole vibe. So I know it's not a specific moment, but I think the others Fraggles were very well delivered.
They're like corporate Fraggles. It was strange.
Yeah, corporate Fraggles. That's right. So, Jordan, what happened on this week's episode of Star Trek The Next Generation?
Well, this week we have Deja Q, another Q episode. So, the Enterprise arrives at the planet Braille 4, whose moon is slowly descending from orbit and threatening to crash into the heavily populated world below. The crew barely has time to panic about that before suddenly Q appears on the bridge, naked and levitating. Oh, yeah. Q claims he's been kicked out of the Q continuum and stripped of all his powers as punishment for being a cosmic nuisance for his whole life. And when given the quick choice of what race he was going to become when he wasn't going to be immortal anymore, he just thought of humans, and so he became a human. But nobody believes him at first. Picard has Worf throw Q in the brig, where Q promptly falls asleep. And while he's locked up, a strange energy scan washes over the ship. And apparently it's a race called the Calamarain, these living gas species that Q tormented at some time in the past, and now they're out for revenge. So they're kind of attacking the ship a little bit, but mostly just trying to steal Q off the ship. As the episode goes on, it becomes clear Q really has lost his powers, and he really is human. He's getting hungry, he's scared, he doesn't know what sleep is, he's complaining constantly. Guinan doesn't believe him either, but she even stabs him with a fork just to test to make sure he's really mortal. And she's like, oh, okay, cool. I guess he is human. The only person who actually befriends Q is Data, who finds a connection with him over becoming human, something that Data's always wanted to do. And they work together at that point, him and Data, on the Brielle moon problem, this moon crashing this planet. And Q doesn't really contribute, but he kind of accidentally helps them by mentioning something that makes them think of the actual right solution. The Calamarain keep attacking, and rather than let the crew die because of a grudge against him, Q actually does something no one expects, and he sacrifices himself, taking a shuttle off of the ship so the Calamarain will follow him instead. But since it's a genuine act of selflessness, it causes another Q to appear, and he's impressed enough by this shred of humility from Q that he restores Q's powers. Q then transports back to the bridge, leading a mariachi band and handing out cigars, which is hilarious. He gives Data a gift for being his friend and also briefly saving his life earlier from the Calamarain. He gives him a gift of genuine laughter for one moment. So he doesn't turn him fully human because he's like, no, you don't want to be human, buddy. Trust me, but here, have some laughter. Picard then orders him off the ship. And apparently on his way out, Q magically puts the moon back in proper orbit as a thank you for hosting him on the ship all this time. So just a fun little jaunt with Q and some little side plot of this planet in danger during the time. But what do you think of this episode, Steve?
I really did enjoy the power shift, like to not see Q in that upper hand position. Just gave a lot more depth to the character. And it made me realize why, in some ways, he is sort of treated as both adversary and advocate sort of later on.
Yeah.
And I didn't, these sort of episodes are realize what sort of paved that way. Because I know in the most recent season of like Picard, him and Picard are kind of like posed as old friends. And I'm like, wait, how the fuck how do we get there?
Reluctant friends. Yeah.
Yeah. Reluctant friends. But like Magneto and Dr. Xavier, So great to see that. Some great lines in there delivered by Delancey. Hello, Worf. Eat any good books lately? I thought that was so good.
And right before that, he goes, what must I do to convince you people I'm human? And Worf says, die.
Yeah, die.
That is hilarious.
So some great stuff in there, especially with Worf. So great stuff. I think one of my issues with this is there was too much stuff. The crashing moon, external pressure, great. Q nonsense, big mystery, big question mark, great. I thought the race hunting Q while he's learning to be was too much stuff. It was just like one too many forces at play.
Yeah, he could have sacrificed himself to stop the moon or something.
Yeah.
That would have been fine.
I just feel, yeah. So I don't know. I think there were other ways they could have gotten there. The random alien race made of energy attacking just felt like one too many.
That's true. I could see that.
I loved the great Guinan interactions. Whoopi Goldberg.
Mm-hmm.
Guinan, like her race is so strange, and even in Star Trek lore, as I read it, people are like, "Yeah, here's what we guess we know."
Yeah, they're mysterious. It's a weird race.
Great arc for Q coming all the way around, which I never thought I was going to say for Q, because kind of before this point, he was kind of one-dimensional.
Kind of a dick.
For the most part. Yeah, kind of a dick. There was that one shred of tolerance he showed to Tasha Yar back when he's like, I can't stand to see women cry, or something very sexist like that, but he said it. And it was like quasi-humanizing, but it was really great to see him get more of that. And then the ending with Data was so charming.
Oh yeah,
with him giving Data the laughter as a gift.
And I love Data's line to when Q's basically complaining about being human. Data says, "You have achieved in disgrace what I've always aspired to be." And I was like, "Oh, what a good, well-written line!" That's just amazing. And also Picard, another great line this episode is when Q goes off to kill himself in the shuttle. And Riker and people are like, should we even try to save him? And like, just let him die. He's not worth it. And Picard's like, it's a perfectly good shuttle.
Yeah, don't waste the shuttle.
Yeah, exactly.
No shuttle should have to pay for this.
Yeah, that was such a good line. So a really funny episode too. Just like,
yeah. But I really, despite my issue with like the too much stuff, this really is already sort of top of the pile, I think, for this season so far.
I'm going to have to go back and see what was better than this one, but it's pretty darn good.
So yeah, little issues, but not big enough to ruin it, I'd say.
Pretty fantastic. A couple Trek facts in this one. Surprisingly, not as many as I thought there would be. After several unsuccessful attempts by director Les Landau of the episode to film Q's nude scene without forcing the actor to actually be naked, a frustrated John Delancey finally asked anyone offended by nudity to leave, and he stripped down and he filmed the scene in one take. Because he's like, okay, we can't get to work with the hangers and the wires. Just get out of here. I'll do it. The final scene, when Q appears on the bridge with the mariachi band to celebrate his restored powers, required numerous takes to get the final result. John Delancey's acting was so over the top, it caused many of the cast and crew to burst out laughing. So finally, the director used wide camera angles with the actors' backs turned to the camera for the first half of the scene. In fact, during the take that made it on air, Michael Dorn can clearly be seen putting his head down to hide his face because he could not hold back his laughter. And I didn't get to go back and watch it yet, but I want to go back and just like watch that scene to see if like he's just cracking up there.
Yeah, true. We don't get that many overtly over-the-top moments like that.
It was great.
It's such an overall serene show.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Well, it makes sense. I've got some great Trek connections.
Oh,
here.
please, let me know.
Excited. Dr. Garin, who was one of the aliens down on the planet, who was like trying to please hurry, fix our moon. Played by an actor named Richard Casino, an actor, voice performer who does many anime English adaptations. So he's like the English voice for a ton of stuff. Well, he was in an episode of the 2003 reboot of the show Dragnet, which I didn't realize that got a reboot.
Me neither.
That featured Ed O'Neill. And he, along with fellow Modern Family cast members, were honored at the 2010 Peabody Awards, as was the Sesame Workshop.
Very nice.
And Elmo and Ed O'Neill worked the red carpet together.
Oh, what a duo.
Bam. Yeah, that was quite a walk. All right. The other alien scientist was played by an actress named Betty Muramoto. And she was a voice in the 1988 animated Real Ghostbusters, like the animated Ghostbusters we all grew up with, where Dave Coulier did the voice of Dr. Peter Venkman, and Arsenio Hall did the voice of Winston Zedmore, while David Coulier did Baby Animal and Baby Bunsen Honeydew on Muppet Babies when he took over the role for Howie Mandel. And Jim Henson's final television appearance was on the Arsenio Hall Show in May of 1990.
Wow, I didn't think I knew that. Wow. What do you know?
Yeah. And then Q2, Corbin Burnson.
Yes.
That's what his character's name was, Q2. I didn't realize that till I was looking it up on IMDb. Corbin Burnson. He was in Sesame Street's 25th anniversary special called Stars and Streets Forever. And he played a sleazy lawyer because it was a parallel to some character he was playing on TV at the time.
I think LA Law, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. So yeah, he did a special guest appearance on their 25th anniversary special.
And he's great on Psych. He plays the dad on Psych, and he's just fantastic. So I was surprised to see him. I forgot he was in this episode. And technically his name is Q, but for the script purposes, they called him Q2. So he got billed as Q2.
They had to label him as something.
Yeah,
I get
exactly. But pretty much the same episode. I mean, really.
Basically the same. Both feature people imprisoned, Q in the brig and Moki in her Fraggle cage.
That's true. Similarly, both feature one person on the captor's side befriending the prisoner. Beige befriends Moki when she's imprisoned in the cage, and Data befriends Q when he's in the brig.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Both feature people receiving the wrath from old rivalries. The Fraggles going to war for some long-forgotten grudge, and Q being stalked by an alien race for his past transgressions.
That's very true. Both episodes end in laughter. The Fraggles all laugh at putting pie in their respective elders' faces, and Q lets Data experience a real human laugh for the first time.
Aw, both adorable.
Adorable. But what? Do you hear that noise? Oh.
Transporter malfunction. Transporter malfunction.
Insert Wilhelm scream here.
But now is the time in our episode where we take one character from one episode and switch them to the other and vice versa. So what you got for us, Steve?
Trek to Rock this week, I'm going to bring over Data to replace Beige, asking methodical and robotic questions about why war has to happen, Captain.
Oh, I love it. Trek to Rock, I'll bring Worf over to replace the old Fraggle. It was with the Fraggle Cave Fraggles. The oldest Fraggle comes with his rickety weapon to attack them, and Worf, son of Moog, is there, ready to slaughter them all. Kaplaw!
Rock to Trek, I'm going to bring over the world's oldest Fraggle and replace Q.
Ooh.
Dropping nude into the Star Trek Enterprise, learning what it means to be in the human world. Okay. And it would be just as out of place.
And he'll be just as obnoxious and warmongering.
Yeah.
Rock to Trek, I'd bring Doc over, like I love to do, to replace Q.
I know you do.
He would have loved being a Q and tormenting Mr. Schimmelfinney from across the galaxy. But in his case, he would love being on the Enterprise as a human. He has all the tinkering he can ask for.
Oh, yeah. You could see him just puttering through the engineering room.
Breaking things left and right.
Just in the background of LaForge shots.
What did he break again? Dang it. Oh, son of a bitch. But that brings us to the end of episode 164 of the MuppeTrek Podcast.
Join us next time for Fraggle Rock episode, The Day the Music Died.
And Star Trek The Next Generation episode, A Matter of Perspective.
So, from the lovers, the dreamers, and us.
Live long and prosper, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the MuppeTrek Podcast. Be sure to follow us on social media on Facebook and Twitter.
Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform.
This podcast has been brought to you by A Play on Nerds.